Spring, 1943. Huntsville, Texas. The dusty streets of this small town suddenly echoed with an unexpected sound, the rhythmic clip-clap of boots marching in formation, accompanied by German military songs sung in four-part harmony. The townspeople watched in stunned silence as captured Nazi soldiers, prisoners of war from Rommel's famed Afrika Korps, marched 3 miles from the train station to their new home, Camp Huntsville, the first and largest POW camp in Texas. When the United States entered World War II in 1941, housing enemy prisoners was the last thing on anyone's mind. America had never dealt with large numbers of foreign POWs before, but prepared or not, the floodgates were about to open. After the surrender of General Erwin Rommel's Afrika Korps in April 1943, more than 150,000 German and Italian prisoners poured into American shores. By war's end, the United States found itself holding 425,000 enemy prisoners, 372,000 of them German. Texas would become home to 90,000 of these POWs, more than any other state. The reason? The Geneva Convention of 1929 required that prisoners be housed in climates similar to where they were captured. Since most Germans surrendered in the scorching deserts of North Africa, the Texas heat made perfect sense. But what shocked both Texans and the prisoners themselves was what happened next. Within weeks of arrival, Camp Huntsville and other facilities were transformed. The Germans decorated their mess halls with paintings, chandeliers, and Christmas ornaments. They adorned walls with family photographs. They organized soccer games, sunbathed, and stretched out in their personal spaces with clean sheets and blankets. When I was captured, I weighed 128 pounds. After 2 years as an American POW, I weighed 185. I had gotten so fat you could no longer see my eyes. The prisoners ate the same rations as American soldiers: fresh food, warm showers, daily beer coupons, cigarettes, and special meals for Thanksgiving and Christmas. Many locals began calling the camps the Fritz Ritz, a nickname dripping with resentment. While American sons, fathers, and brothers were dying overseas, enemy soldiers were living comfortably in the Texas countryside. The irony was not lost on anyone. But for the German prisoners, something even more shocking awaited them beyond the barbed wire: American civilian life. With most young American men overseas, Texas faced a crippling labor shortage. The War Department authorized farmers to hire POW labor. The Germans were put to work picking peaches and citrus fruits, harvesting rice, cutting wood, baling hay, threshing grain, gathering pecans, and chopping record amounts of cotton. Without exception, they recall their years as POWs in Texas as the greatest times of their lives. On farms across Texas, enemy soldiers worked alongside civilians, sharing meals, conversation, and eventually friendship. Some prisoners were even allowed outside camps, without guards, operating on the honor system. But what truly shocked the Germans wasn't the abundance of food or the hospitality of Texans. It was something far more disturbing. Many of these young German soldiers had been indoctrinated in Nazi ideology since childhood. They'd been taught that democracy was weak, that America was corrupt, and that the Aryan race was superior to all others. Then they saw the reality of Jim Crow Texas. The blacks didn't do much better than us. They were just in front of the wire, and we were behind the wire. German prisoners, men who had fought for Adolf Hitler, watched in disbelief as black American soldiers, their fellow farm workers, and civilians were systematically discriminated against and exploited. Another German prisoner, a farmer in civilian life, observed that African Americans were expected to pick 2 to 3 times more cotton than the POWs. "You have to see how they lived," he said after the war. These people were so exploited. Black American soldiers noticed this too. In restaurants along highways, German prisoners of war could sit down and order meals at tables, while black American soldiers in uniform were forced to eat in the kitchen or not at all. About 24 German prisoners of war entered with their American guards. They sat at the tables, had their meals served, talked, smoked, in fact, had quite a swell time. Are we not American soldiers? At one POW camp in Texas, a latrine was segregated. One section for Negro soldiers, the other for German prisoners and white soldiers, literally placing the tyrant above the liberator. Camp authorities attempted to address this contradiction through a re-education program. In Huntsville, German prisoners attended voluntary lectures on American democracy, watched films, and studied the U.S. Constitution and Bill of Rights. But the irony was inescapable. They were being taught the meaning of democracy, while outside the Southern camps, no black citizen dared to step on the sidewalk alongside white Americans. Some Germans thought the footage of concentration camps at Buchenwald and Auschwitz were American propaganda. But gradually, minds began to change. Nazi solidarity and violence decreased as prisoners saw both the promise and the failures of American democracy firsthand. When the war ended and it came time for repatriation, something unexpected happened. Many Germans didn't want to leave. Thousands stayed in touch with their former employers. Historian Arnold Kramer estimates that 8,000 POWs eventually moved back to the United States permanently. Some married American women. Most were sponsored by residents, including farmers sponsoring their former workers, to gain residency. Those who returned to Germany often came back to Texas regularly for reunions. Entire communities turned out to welcome back men who had once been the enemy. They were good workers, good men. We kept in touch for decades. Some of my best memories are from those years. The story of German POWs in Texas reveals uncomfortable truths about America during World War II, a nation fighting fascism abroad while maintaining racial apartheid at home. For young German soldiers, Texas became a place of contradiction, extraordinary generosity and hospitality existing alongside profound injustice. They came as enemies. They left as witnesses to both the best and worst of American democracy, and many of them never forgot what they learned in the land of the free.